Anthony Todd Show.
Alright, everybody, welcome to the Anthony and Todd Show. My name is Trevor, aka check your dictionary for the meaning of anti-disestablishmentarianism, my favorite doom line. AKA Scribblenauts Extremely Limited, aka who would win in a guitar battle, Lil Wayne or Kid Cudi? I need to know.
I don't know. I think Lil Wayne, right? No, Kid Cudi would win because Lil Wayne would die off of like drinking too much lean. That's how he has his guitar skills, is from the lean.
Oh.
You don't know that's what makes you the best guitarist? Why do you think so many people do lean?
Why do you think Kurt Cobain died? Rest in peace, Kurt Cobain. Can we take a moment of silence?
For his lean addiction? That's why I thought he shot himself.
He died from lean.
Or if you ask Flatbush Zombies, he was murdered by Courtney.
You can ask anybody that, and they'll say that.
I think he was murdered by lean.
I think so. Lean, I've had enough.
We're leaving lean in 2018.
No. 28 lean. I'm here with my co-host, my ever-attentive co-host, my best friend, my pal, my amigo, Vincent, a.k.a. Furry Dating Simulator, a.k.a. Tyrannosaurus Bitch, a.k.a. Six Hands in the Air if you don't really care. Life is licorice.
Just like that sometimes, man. Licorice. Life can be so much licorice.
Lick your wrist. You're listening to Anthony and Todd Show, weekly music podcast covering all types of music. We review, we discuss, we do stupid things.
We make memes.
It's a really good time.
One episode we just made ice cream, but we had to replace rock salt with like actual salt, and it tasted really salty. But we didn't have any actual salt, so we just threw a bunch of potato chips in there. I
wouldn't do that. Do a weekly live stream. Obviously, you're listening to it right now. And then we also do just kind of reviews of albums all throughout the week. So I hope you can catch up on our channel. This is episode 35 of the Anthony and Todd Show, an episode we would like to call Pookie Baby One More Time. We got a great episode planned for you today. We're reviewing 5 different projects. We got Prof's new album, Pookie Baby. This is the Rich Man's Macklemore. After that, we got the new Princess Nokia project, A Girl Cried Red. A Place to Bury Strangers' new album, Pinned. Gum's latest album, The Underdog. And Saba, Chicago rapper's latest project, Care For Me, as well as diving into the Kanye Quest. We're covering My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which is such a grandiose album, and there's honestly a lot to talk about here. I didn't write the Kanye Quest this week because I wanted to spend more time to talk about this.
Okay.
Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy all these different projects and can keep up with us.
Okay, you ready to go into Pookie Baby by Prof,
Riff Raff.
That should be his name, actually. Prof. Prof, whatever, is a Minnesota rapper. He's currently signed to the Rhymesayers Entertainment label, host of artists such as Atmosphere, A$AP Rock, Brother Ali, Dem Atlas, and usually most of the time we're either entertained by their projects. Not all of them are great, but most of the time we're entertained. There are moments, usually on every project, that we enjoy. The last project released, Evidence's last project, whether or not we were kind of
I know you can do better than that, Evidence.
But like that's kind of like the lowest they go, is just kind of It's never like terrible.
Nothing's ever bad.
We know what to expect out of this label, and this new project from Prof, whatever his name is, Prof. I was interested going into because I think his persona is just so strange and out there. Last year I discovered him through a single off of his last mixtape, Time Bomb, which it's like the music video threw me off because I think that's the hardest thing to get about it. His persona is weird, and a lot of his music videos don't really match as well, or they give you a different feel of like the personality you come to expect. But the music video for Time Bomb, it like takes Trailer Park Boys, and it gives you this like it kind of threw me off because I'm not a huge in Trailer Park Boys, but like people usually like Trailer Park Boys aren't like well spoken for. I'm gonna leave it at that. But I thought he had a lot of different flows, a lot of different styles, but I wasn't necessarily sold because I thought it was I thought it was a little bit too weird, a little bit too out there, and I didn't think it was like consistent enough. But after a while, I've actually kind of grown the single, and especially listening to it as a part of this album on its own, I actually really enjoyed a lot. And I think that's one of the things I like about Proof the most, is that he's so weird, he's so out there. He's kind of mastered this kind of like goofy, cheesy persona. Artists like Lil Dicky and Macklemore definitely use this persona a lot, but it's not preachy like Macklemore, and it's not cringy like Lil Dicky. And I think it's the right balance of stupid mixed with like bravado and braggadocio. But at the same time, it's entertaining. It's not constantly braggadocio. It's kind of constant braggadocio, but at the same time,
I wouldn't say so.
Like moments like Andre the Giant and Action definitely
there are. Also,
are.
like stupid ones, like I've cooked crack before. Like things like that aren't like exactly about how great you are.
Yeah. But he's comparing himself to other rappers.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
But it's a nice blend of, he matches bravado and braggadocio with his persona, and it becomes entertaining. If you're gonna do braggadocio, if you're gonna do bravado, do it right. Make it fun. Make it worth listening. And on this project, he makes it worth listening. I actually have a lot of fun with this project. I think Prof provides a lot of very solid flows and a lot of surprisingly great vocals performances. His vocal capacity on this project is excellent. He has a really soulful, really almost gospel inspired voice that you don't expect from this like strange white guy with a pedophile mustache. Like, you don't expect him to have that talented of a voice, and he comes through with such a great just vocal styling that it comes through in some of the poppier moments on this album really well, and it comes through on some of the more emotional tracks on this album pretty well. Honestly, I think this is a well-constructed album, well-constructed hip-hop album. I actually had a lot of fun with this. I was decently surprised how much I actually enjoyed Proof's performances throughout, and I think he's a very talented individual. He has a lot of personality for him, and it's pretty great. I want to hear what you had to say about this, though.
I actually quite enjoyed it. I don't know. I feel like comedy music is kind of hit or miss for me.
Yeah.
Macklemore's latest project, I think, was god-awful, and sometimes I find him really annoying. But, like, I liked his last two albums and, like, the fun moments on it, the Heist and This Unruly Mess I've Made. I thought those were both really interesting. Lil Dicky's Professional Rapper, when that first came out, I was hooked for a little while. Like, I thought it was fun. And now he's super obnoxious. But then, like, you go to Kieran J. Callanan or Ariel Pink, and I just can't get behind these. I can't get behind these artists. Like, there's just something about it. But Prof I found to be, like, a step above all of that. I found him to be, like, very funny and very interesting at the same time, as being, like, a good lyricist and a decent, I guess, just artist in general. Like, he knows how to use his production to his advantage, and he knows how to make catchy songs as well as, like, being stupid. There are tracks on here like Andre the Giant or the title track Pookie Baby, or Send Nudes, obviously, is the funniest one. That's my personal favorite on the album. They just catch my attention, and they're not, like, overly stupid or cringy where I'm just like, turn this off,
Yeah, speaking about how it's not overly cringy, Sends Nudes the best moment of this. How it is, it takes like a really dumb concept of sending nudes. It's basically just trying to get this chick to send nudes to him. Easy concept, could be terribly executed. I could honestly see Lil Dicky making a song like this, and it would be god awful.
Oh yeah, I heard so many shades of him, but it wasn't him. It was a step above.
It's like, but here's the thing: it's well executed as fuck. There's so many changes. His vocal performance is fantastic on it. Mm-hmm. It reminds me a lot of Shaggy, weirdly enough, and that like 90s, early 2000s pop music. It's like, it's fun. It's really fun. I think it's a well executed, like, kind of pop rap comedy track, and it just has so many layers to it. So fun, and it could have been terrible, but it comes through with some just fun writing that's not too out there or not trying to be something else. It's not too forceful, but at the same time, it knows it's a joke. It knows it's completely stupid, and it tries to mess with the form up a little bit. The breakdown at the end, "Wanna take me with the clothes off?" It's just very catchy and fun, and it has a lot of humor. I think the catchiness of the track makes the humor more exciting.
For sure. The negative side, at least for me, is that I think around the... probably around, like, the action or homicide mark on here, like 10th or 11th track in, I think that the album lost its sheen a little bit. And I felt like some of the production just wasn't as good as the first half. I just felt like some of the lyrics weren't as good as the first half. And, like, luckily, it's only for a couple of tracks. And it's not... It's nothing that's, like, super glaring on the album, but I do have to address the fact that there were just, like, tracks on here that I didn't find enjoyable at all. Like I said, like, Homicide, I was just bored. I almost fell asleep, like, in the car listening to this.
Homicide is kind of boring because it's just, like, his performance is good, don't get me wrong. I think his vocal performance is across this, but it's, like, really similar to Criminal, like, right after. And I don't think it has, like, the same amount of impact as, like, other tracks. And I think it's kind of the real side of him we see. And since it's not, like, a brief moment, it kind of just goes on for too long. I think that's probably my least favorite track on this entire album. One moment that, like, I'm kind of, like, iffy on whether I'm, like, sold or not, the moment Be Around. It's a more vocal heavy track. It's not really as quirky, as fun, as punchy. I like the performance that he and this vocalist give together. I forget her name.
Ashley DuBose.
They have a lot of good chemistry together, but I just don't think it's, like, worth all it's meant to be. And then Focus, I think it's just like the last track on this album that I disliked. Everything after that, Minneapolis and the closer, Eulogy, I thought were fun. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. Minneapolis is definitely a track I honestly think Macklemore would make, but it seems like 1,000 times more fun. It seems like a genuine experience.
I just feel like there's this obvious, like, dip in quality. I see. Also, like, personal thing, Designated Hitter is stupid. I just hated that song.
I feel like you were.
Do you know what it reminded me of?
What?
The end of Bobby Tarantino.
Yeah.
Where he goes, I smoke weed!
But here's the thing. And this I want to talk about. I think to me, it seems more... It's not as cringy as that because he's not trying to make it edgy.
No, it was
Logic was trying
like
to make
that.
it edgy. This just seemed like his love experience with weed, and it's just his tribute to similar how Minnesota is not Minnesota. Minneapolis is a tribute to his city.
Or Minnesota is a tribute to Liliana.
Minneapolis tribute city, Designated Hitter's tribute to his weed, and how it's like his stories behind it. He actually has stories behind it, and it does have some catchy moments to it. And I knew you weren't gonna like that track because of that reason.
It just, like, wasn't my favorite. I just felt like he was...
And it's not one of the stronger moments in the album by any means.
I think tracks about weed, kind of like a side topic, I think tracks about weed are, like, I don't know, like, almost too, like, yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that. I just think that's kind of stupid. Yeah. But no, it did have, like, a lot of funny moments. Also, pure genius to make the track 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
I was going to talk about that. That's like...
I was very impressed. That's just the care that Prof puts in on this album.
It's been done before. I remember Kid Cudi on Man on the Moon 2 had a track called Marijuana, and that was 420 seconds as long. And
that was Kid Cudi. He plays the guitar.
But I think... like it added like an element to the joke of the track, or the element to the humor. Tracks I want to mention before we actually have to end this review soon. Andre Giant's fantastic. Pookie Baby, utterly fantastic. Time Bomb, fantastic. And I'm gonna say No is utterly fantastic as well. I know you're not the biggest fan of that track, but all these tracks I would talk about them own, but I think they all follow the same style of Prof just kind of messing with his flows, constantly changing, constantly evolving, having a good sense of humor, having a unique personality, having good bars. I think tracks like Action and Light Work are more showcases of his flow than anything else. I don't think they punch hard as like Andre the Giant or No, but they're more the groundwork for him showcasing his flows and showcasing his humor. I think Light Work actually has some of the best performances on the entire album, just flow wise. And I think we're talking about how this album it manages to be jokey. It does get into some like real territory, but I don't think it is preachy as someone like a Macklemore, because we're comparing the two. Because the track I've Could Crack before, it reminds me of, I forget what the track's called, but on Jay-Z's 44-4 too as well, where Jay-Z's comparing a bunch of like himself to a bunch of like the SoundCloud rappers and artists such as like Lil Uzi Vert.
Yeah.
I forget what that track's called, but it reminds me of that too. I think this has an element of humor. It works, but it's not the strongest, I think. When there's more humor attached to it, it works better. I think the end where he's like inviting the little fake rapper to come, he's like, there's no such thing as fake rappers and real rappers. You don't need to lie to be a real rapper or something. Real rappers don't lie. And he's like, come here, give me a hug. I thought that was hilarious. And there's progression in the instrumental as well, and he has good vocals on the track. But I think it comes off a little bit too braggadocious or kind of too like real hip hop style, which is problems I had with Jay-Z on 444 on that track, because I think he's just like, you gotta let the kids have fun. But I do like his critique of Xanax, and he's saying he could crack, the glorification of Xanax and modern rap, and we live in Xans in 2017, the glorification of drug culture. I like that critique. I think that's a very solid critique, but I think elements of the track could have been taken out and replaced more with that, or it could have been more goofy overall and him ripping on SoundCloud rappers or fake rappers. But overall, I really had a lot of fun with this project. Moments like Andre the Giant, light work, sorry, I'm just goofing off. Moments like Andre the Giant, light work, action, no, time bomb are all fantastic, and I'm definitely gonna go back and listen to them. At the worst, I think this album's just kind of meh. I think moments like Homicide and Be Around and Focus just don't really do it for me. But other than that, they're just some minor footnotes on this like 50-minute album. I really had a lot of fun. I think it's consistent. It knows itself well, and overall, I'm gonna give it a half. I really liked it.
Nice. I think I'm going to give it a 8.25. It did end up being something that I actually did enjoy listening to. And I always like to laugh when I listen to music, and I think that he delivers well, especially on tracks not mentioned, Pookie Baby, Send Nudes, that kind of thing. I just found them very interesting and a lot of fun. Alright, so Prince's Samsung Galaxy S9, her new album, A Girl Cried Red. Actually, Princess Nokia. She's indestructible. She can't feel pain.
Princess Nokia, New York-based rapper who I discovered last year from the track Tomboy off her 1995 deluxe album. And I haven't listened to the album full before, but I've listened to singles. I've listened to Tomboy Go, and I've always been interested in her music. I just never delved into it before. I was interested on the track Tomboy by her raw aggression. So, basically, explain it. She seemed like a female queer version of Action Bronson. Just upfront, kind of jokey, kind of self-deprecating humor. Not really.
She's a chef.
She's a chef. But kind of upfront, raw aggression that's also self-deprecating, also self-aware, also funny at the same time. Just a lot of elements working up together. I liked her rawness. That was like the biggest component of everything. I think she just had so many things about her that make her exciting, and I was honestly excited for this new A Girl Called Cried Red project, because I thought we're gonna get that style Princess Nokia, but apparently she's just like, fuck it, complete stylistic change, dropping a lot of just hip-hop to now emo. This is an emo album. She's described this as an emo album. It is an emo album. And it's not a good emo album by any means. Like, emo can be good. Like, I think people have Remo Drive, Modern Baseball, but that's like more like indie rock /emo than anything else. I think this album takes a lot of cues from Lil Peep and angry SoundCloud rappers of similar nature that were inspired by Lil Peep. Because Lil Peep was kind of the fire in that trend of like a emo rap. And this is not how you do emo. Like, just by being overly sentimental overly self-deprecating, overly annoying, stating the same points over and over and over again, being like, oh, I want to kill myself, I want to die, I want to hurt myself because this girl and me are fighting. It's like, that's not how you do emo. That's just how you be edgy. And like, edgy.
Makes me want to call 911.
This is like, we need to separate. I have nothing to do with emo as genre. I'm a music critic, but I think we need to come to terms as all together, just everyone, and separate the term edgy from emo. There needs to be a clear separation, and even in genre, I think that would help, because this is more edgy than it is emo. This is not emotional, because what I consider emotional music, like artists like Remo Drive and Modern Baseball, they tell stories that make it have sentimental value to them, and they may be a little bit over sentimental, but they're telling narratives, whereas this is just being just edgy. It's just being like, oh, I just want to hurt myself. It's just being overly edgy for its own good, to be cool, to give off an appearance that it's trying to be something else. This gives me the appearance Princess Nokia is just someone who just reads Tumblr all day and
she buys Metallica t-shirts from H&M.
Yeah, like shit like that. And this is not the Princess Nokia that I personally enjoyed on her last project from the tracks I did hear, and it doesn't seem like stylistically something that's original and unique like her last project. This just seems like female Little Peep, and do we need that? No, I don't think we needed Little Peep to begin with in that style of music. This is terrible. This is terrible. It literally uses the same auto-tune and the same production over and over again. The overly sentimental, the overly edgy lyrics that just destroy, I think, Princess Nokia's career. I don't think this is a career. This may not be a career killer, but it sentimentally to me, yes. I think it's just like, it proves that like she's not all what she's cracked up to be, which is a shame, because I saw a lot of talent in her as a queer writer,
I'm afraid
as a queer
she'll be
rapper,
a one-hit wonder.
And I don't want 1995 to be the only time we hear that style from Princess Nokia, and I don't want that to be the only time we hear her be upfront about her issues. But like, if she took some of the ideas that she wants from this and maybe switched it up with a different flow, maybe it would be okay. But at the same time, I think she just does the same thing over and over again, to the point where I'm just listening to this and I think every track sounds the fucking same.
No, it does. And that's exactly what I thought. I'm pretty sure every single track is in like the same key, and like just different part. Like, she'd pick like 2 or 3 or 4 notes from a scale and sing those over and over and over with no variation. She put no emotion behind her voice. She put no effort into the project. It just seemed like she was bored with it or completely over it. It felt like a robot was like singing these emo songs, and there was nothing. There was nothing in here. And there was like, every track had the same sort of like blood imagery, same kind of ideas. Always talked about like, my eyes are bleeding, my feet are bleeding, my lungs are bleeding, my Skittles have blood in them. Like, just dumb stuff like that. Every track was like the same, and if it was trying to make kind of like a golden thread through here or some sort of point, it didn't work out very edgy well. Thread. It was very edgy. It cut my finger.
So some things I can actually give this album credit. For the Night, on Interlude, it has some nice strumming, because it's just an instrumental interlude, and
it's a shame it's the shortest track.
It's honestly the best track, and it's the shortest, and it has no Princess Nokia on it, so it's Look Up Kid has an okay hook, but it still has kind of shitty vocals to it. I think the hook's okay, and that's the only hook on this I actually cared for. For the Night, this is one specific instance, the audio-tune just made me want to vomit. That's when I was just like, yeah, I'm done with this. All the production, verses, and performances sound the same. Princess Nokia fucked up on this project, and I hope this is just more her giving out B-sides that she's never going to release, and that this is the build up to something else that she's going to do. But I honestly feel like this is the style she's probably going to go for in the near future, and I hate that. So in all honesty, it's not good. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling 2.5 out of 10
I'm
on this.
giving it a 1.
I don't think it's as bad, because I'd rather listen to this over Weekend's My Dear Melancholy. I'd rather listen to this over Migos, but I would not listen to this over Justin Timberlake. I would listen to Justin Timberlake over this.
I'm giving it a 1.
That's my justification for score. What I would and would not listen to it over.
As a vocalist, it just hurts when people don't put effort into their songs
Or
put
passion
effort into their performance or passion.
This is just
and to use
passionless.
auto-tune sometimes. I'm like, as if you needed to be less human. I don't know. That just bothered. It struck a chord with me, I think. But she gets a 1. Take that. I've been giving a lot of 1s lately.
I think we've just been giving a lot of low reviews because when you get angry, we just don't want to listen to stuff. Like, My Dear Melancholy did deserve it. To most people, no, but to me, yes, because it personally insulted me because it made 20 minutes feel like 3 hours.
Take that, sucker.
Okay.
Hear Yeezy. Welcome to the Kanye Quest. This week we're going to be talking about Kanye's magnum opus, his perhaps most grandiose project yet. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
By the way, this is the Kanye Quest, a weekly show going over Kanye West's entire discography, giving you some of the brief history. Usually we do some form of quest, but we're not doing today because this is too big of a project.
This is seriously too big and grand of a project that I think it allowed the entire elapsed time to talk about it.
But today we're talking about Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And we're continuing where we left off after Kanye's last studio album, 808s and Heartbreaks. So after 808s and Heartbreaks, a little while after, he went to the MTV Video Music Awards, and this is when one of Kanye's quintessential Kanye moments happened.
I can't believe it was that long ago.
It feels like forever, actually, but time moves slow.
When you're all alone.
But Kanye West, basically, Cliff Notes version what happened. Kanye West interrupted Taylor Swift as she was accepting her award for, I think, Best Music Video, and he goes on the stage and Beyonce made one of the best music videos of all time, cutting her off, going on a rant, doing all the typical Kanye stuff we know and love, and this affected his opinion with people in a huge way. I still don't understand why people think this was such a tragic event.
I think this set him apart almost as the villain of music. And I think that I feel like Kanye always had kind of a dark side to him, you know? But I think this is the point where people, the Hurricane Katrina thing, the George Bush doesn't care about black people started that kind of downhill.
Rolling Stones continued it, and then
and here we are crashing into the Beyonce had the best music video of all time thing, and then I think people just really took him as a villain. Yeah, and up until now, I think he fought it, but this was the moment I think he accepted it, where he was gonna be a social villain, or people just weren't gonna like him.
Yeah, but here's the thing: I don't think what he did was that bad.
No, I don't think so either.
It's not because we don't like Taylor Swift. I just don't think it's that terrible. It's like I said, not because we don't. We don't like Taylor Swift.
No, we don't.
But I just don't think it's it's a dickish thing to do. But it's not
he didn't shoot her.
Yeah, he didn't shoot her in the face.
Nobody was assassinated here. Nothing happened. And if we're being honest, I think that Beyonce did have a better music video.
If we're being honest, it's the fucking MTV Music Video Awards. It's not. It's not fucking the Grammys, and it's not that high of an honor. It's only a high as an honor as you want it to be. And I think a lot of this comes down to Taylor Swift being such an innocent figure at the time, because this is when she was still doing country. That she was maybe kind of not her, but I feel like the media played it up as she was a victim in all this, which I don't think she is, and it made her famous. It literally made her famous. It skyrocketed her and Kanye's career from this moment. I think it benefited both of them. Beyond links. So after this event, Kanye had to cancel his Fame Kills tour with Lady Gaga because Lady Gaga just didn't want to work with him because of the bad publicity of it. Which was a shame that tour never got to happen.
That's stupid.
He took a break from music to focus on fashion for a bit, and then he locked himself away in Hawaii for a couple months to work on his newest studio album, the most grandest studio album, and, in my opinion, his best album. I think this is the best Kanye album. Thinking about it over the last couple days, I didn't know if I was going to be able to put a Graduation or a College Dropout, but I think I am. I think this is his best. I think he comes through.
Up until now?
Up until now. For sure. But, like, we haven't gone over Yeezus yet. Yeezus not fucking doing that. But I think this is his best because it is so big. It's so grand. It's an evolution of Graduation, the same way Late Registration was an evolution of College Dropout, if that makes sense. Because it's Graduation on a much larger scale. Graduation was so much more oomph. He took the persona that he crafted on Graduation, and he had to ditch it for a bit because of more like personal reasons. On 808s and Heartbreaks, he was more personal on that and more grounded. But on this, he's back to like Kanye form. He's back on the mountaintop saying, "You can't tell me nothing." He's gone full Kanye, full braggadocio, full just the persona we loved on Graduation, but he has bigger accompaniment behind him. He's making more of these I feel like stadium bangers again, and they're not as electronic or I would say as rock focused as the ones on Graduation or sample focused, I would mean. But there's something new, there's something grand, they're huge. But he also finds way to make what he did on 808s and Heartbreaks. He uses minimalism on it as well to create these huge worlds on the track Say You Will on 808s and Heartbreaks. It feels so grand and so big, but there isn't much that's there. There's a drum and like a synth. That's it. There's nothing else, but it feels like it's this huge atmospheric thing. And the same thing could be played, say, on a track Runaway. Runaway is keys, a sample.
It's just playing octaves too. It's not like creative piano work or anything.
But it feels so huge. It feels like another dimension. It feels like there's just so much space to it. Like it needs to be played in like a fucking like amphitheater or something like that. It needs to be played on a huge stage. There's so much depth to it. I think this entire album just feels so grandiose, so much fun, but at the same time so large. And he's taking the persona that he did on Graduation. He's taking a lot of the fun lines and a lot of fun moments we had on Graduation and applying it to this project, but also applying a lot of some of the minimalism that he learns on 808s and some of the stuff he learned on College Dropout and some of the stuff.
Yeah, I feel like
I think it's more
instead of like sampling soul, I think he's making his own soul music.
Yeah,
he's making his own samples, if that makes sense.
I think it's just a well-crafted Kanye album. We can go over what makes this great. Opening track, Dark Fantasy. Ooh. One of Kanye's best songs.
That's one of my favorites, personally.
Can we get much higher?
It's so catchy. It's so fun.
The intro with Nicki Minaj, reading almost like this child's storybook, going on to Kanye with some of the like most fun, most witty bars that he's dropped over his entire career, over this very large, big beat. I think it works really, really well. The choir behind him backing it up. Really huge, catchy vocals that the choir gives. It's fantastic. That moving on to Gorgeous with Kid Cudi. Who Kid Cudi's playing guitar.
I don't know who wins anymore.
It's Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne or
Kid Cudi. But I think it does feel large and grand on the same note. I like Raekwon's The Chef's performance on it. There's like it's the element of there's
the bus boy,
not to be confused with Raekwon the bus boy of Kaliush's Collaborator fame. But I think there's just so many. There's a lot of features to this project, but they're all quality.
So many features,
but they're all quality. I feel like
they're so they're very like handpicked to be exactly what he wants them to be, which I think is awesome. And he's not just pulling from, just kind of his own, like, producer pool, because obviously he does work with, like, Raekwon or Pusha T or Rick Ross or Big Sean, but he's also pulling from people like Elton John or Santa Gold or Justin Vernon from Bon Iver,
Yeah.
As well as getting people like Q-Tip or DJ Premier or Pete Rock or Madlib to, like, work with him and produce. And sometimes he didn't even, like, use their beats, Sometimes he like completely discarded the things that they made for him because they just weren't right. That's how much like time and effort was put into this. I just think that's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like all the features on this are kind of similar to what we've been saying about how Kanye uses people almost as instruments. What he did to Adam Levine on Heard Him Say, and what he did to Chris Martin on Homecoming, just kind of turning them into his own use. He's good at finding people's uses and using them for a specific purpose, and I feel like on this album it's the best use of it. I feel like everyone used has a great, like, I feel Nicki Minaj on this project, I usually don't care for her, but on this she feels hungry, she feels feisty, she feels like on the track Monster, she seems like a fucking monster. She's hungry as fuck.
Get her some food.
Get her a fucking granola bar stat, boy.
Kanye hired 2 chefs for his mansion. Did you know that? One's for hot food and one was for cold food.
Ice cream? Did they just have to put things in a freezer?
And Monsieur West, your dinner. And then I was like, I got ice cream.
But I think a best example on this is All the Lights with like all the features that are on it.
All of the features.
Everyone from like Kid Cudi to like
Your
Rihanna to Fergie, who has a surprise part on the bridge, which I've always been confused by, that Fergie's always in that one little spot. But there's just so many. I think like John Legend's a part of the choir as well. There's so many background vocals in ensemble. We are the world. We are the world, but Kanye version. He makes people like Rick Ross work. And have him on the Bon Iver on the same track.
Rick Ross will work for anybody.
The fact that like Rick Ross and Bon Iver on like the same track is like crazy. Like how he's able to put so many like different artists with different styles and different flows on like the same level. Blame Game with John Legend reminds me a lot of why the collaboration between him and Kanye on I'm Good works so well. Just I think John Legend's voice and the piano ballad that follows him and Kanye just is very soothing, and it's one of the better moments on the closing of this album. There's just so many great moments. Power is one of Kanye's best ballads. It is one of his best songs. It's just one of his best performances too. It's so hype. It's so energetic. The sampling with 21st Century Schizo Man, the huge choir that shows up, the choir like vocals that show up on a lot of the tracks on the album. It just has a huge grand factor to it. Kanye's hungry as fuck. I would say a lot of these tracks Kanye is also hungry as fuck. There's a lot. I think this is almost like a redemption for him in a sense. He wanted to redeem himself, not after Taylor Swift, but he wanted to make sure people knew he was still the fucking best, because 808s in a sense wasn't his most well accepted project. It's one of those most underrated, and Graduation
also not well accepted either.
I think Graduation was well accepted.
It was better accepted than 808s, but coming off of like Late Registration and the College Dropout, it's completely like flipped it on its head. It wasn't the same thing. Yeah,
but it proved it was noteworthy as one of the markers in the end of the Bling era.
Yeah.
And
for the culture, it meant a lot. For Kanye's career, it meant a lot. But at the time, for his fans, like, I don't think that they liked it very much.
And going to 808s, it's such a different sound and just such a different style that I think he needed this project to show people he was on the fucking top. He was on his A game. This Graduation sound could be even more than I did on his last album. This minimalism, I can even mess with that a bit, and it's even more. I think that Kanye is just his hungriest, his most passionate, and his most, like, is just best on this album.
And that's why there's 2 chefs.
All the Lights... the interlude with the interlude going to the actual performance is so beautiful. All the vocals on it, again, just the sense of grandeur on this project. When I think of My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, I think of Kanye wearing that giant ass fucking chain, and I think that status of wealth, I always compliment, or I always compare that to the grandness of this album. I feel like Kanye deserves that chain. That chain complements this album in a sense. It needs to be ridiculously grand. It needs to be kind of almost ridiculously dumb. Case in point, in Dark Fantasy, you had too many miracles on your team. That's why you Winslow. Just get out of here. Just so many elements thrown together. Who Will Survive in America and See Me Now, or no, I'm sorry, Lost in the World and Who Will Survive in America at the end. Just a great closing statement, really energetic, really fun. I think a lot of people don't care for that moment as much, but I personally love those two as a closer. I think it's just so much fun. I think the production behind it, I love Bon Iver with Kanye. I love the choir that backs them both up. I love how just the production, all the stylistic choices, all the sampling. I like how it goes in the preacher at the end, or the motivational speaker, I forget who it is, but I think everything just kind of goes together. Hell of a Life is one of Kanye's most tongue-in-cheek and also one of his most fun tracks, where he's talking about a marry porn star and just all the dumb things that he's gonna do, and it has this like illusion of grandeur, his illusion of like almost stupidity of being a jackass, but at the same time he's self-aware that he's just being dumb. I think it works out really well. I think this album just works as a group to create this sense of grandeur, the sense of a large world. Yeah, it's one of the best hip-hop albums of all time, nonetheless. This is Kanye's best album. I think it's great. I think it's phenomenal. I love this album to death. Re-listening it over the past week has been fantastic, and I can't wait to listen to it more times. Tracks like Dark Fantasy, Runaways with Pusha T, which we didn't really get a chance to talk about all that much, but it's minimalistic and it's fantastic. And it won my personal Kanye bracket. I think it's utterly great with his minimalism and vocals. Tracks like Hell of Life, Blame Game, All of the Lights, Monster, Power, Who Will Survive in America. It's just everything just blends well together, and that's why I think it's Kanye's best album.
This album feels like it was made, I know you said it was made to show everybody he was the best, which I think to an extent that is true, but I also think it was made just for himself. You know, this was kind of locked in his own head, and as I mentioned before, like he would throw out tracks that were, you know, produced for him. He would throw out features. He would, you know, tell people no. This was an album like for him, and I think he was just like too locked in his head to say no, or too locked in his head to not have things go exactly the way he wanted it to, and I think that really paid off. I'm glad that this happened. I hate that it had to have happened, because I think that it was in a time of a lot of like suffering for him. It just seemed like it came at a really bad time for him. I just found out like the other day that the original name for this album was Donda's Boy.
Yeah. And then the other name was Good Ass Job.
Yeah.
Too.
With Chance 3.
Yeah.
But like, just take that name, you know, Donda's Boy. Yeah. His mom just died.
Yeah, before 808s.
Mm-hmm. And he talked about it on 808s, but this is almost like the 808s is not a sense of closure.
Yeah.
I think that this is a huge sense of closure for him, a huge new opening of his next chapter. When I think of this, I think of the gates of like Olympus or heaven have just opened, and Kanye's like stepping into a whole like grandiose world. You got like the choirs of angels singing. Yeah. You've got these huge images of like architecture, just huge like Greek architecture. You know, crazy elaborate sounds linked to like crazy elaborate images. Dark Twisted Fantasy, I think, is just Kanye trapped in his own mind and just trying to make sense of the world around him. And I loved every minute of it. I think this album is a true masterpiece, and anybody that says otherwise is kind of, I think they're kidding themselves.
One final note I want to go out on, the reason I think this is a final note why I think it's best album: College Dropout and Late Registration, which are often praised as Kanye's best albums. I think they didn't have really a sense of super uniqueness production wise, and I think Kanye as a presence was unique, but I'm not saying it's bad from that, but I think it wasn't like something completely unthought of, if that makes sense. It was a good collection. It's a great collection of tracks, don't get me wrong, but it's not something super out there compared to the time. I think this at the time is almost, it was a sound that really hasn't, this grand hip hop is something that never was really accomplished before, and Kanye was able to do it. And I think that's why My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is good, because it gave Kanye, as you mentioned, a sense of closure. It showed him at the mountaintop. He was able it's almost I think this is the opening to the second half of his career, the second act, and it's just, yeah, it's phenomenal. I don't think I could say any more. I think the current ranking of albums we already viewed, I think My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Graduation, College Dropout, 808s and Heartbreaks, Wave Registration, it's gonna come to my head in a second. Can't Tell Me Nothing. I'm Good. Get Well Soon. I always forget the mixtapes. I remember all of them. But I think, yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say. This is the best Kanye album. If you've never heard it before, definitely check it out.
For sure. All right, A Place to Bury Strangers is a New York City noise rock band, and they have just released their newest album, Pinned.
I came to know them from earlier this year from their single Never Holding Back, which is a track I personally really enjoyed. I just liked, I don't know, I like the high-pitched guitar strumming. I like the progression of the track. I like the vocals. I liked how Oliver Ackerman and Lena Samo Braswell, I think that's her name, I just like their chemistry together as just two vocalists. I think it just worked well, in my personal opinion. It just felt like a really solid rock track. It wasn't super invented, but I just thought it was really solid, and I hope the rest of the album was going to follow down the suit. My biggest complaint with this new record here, it just sounds like Joy Division.
That's also my biggest complaint.
It's just Joy Division. Like,
I don't like Joy Division.
It's just a Joy Division knockoff. And it's a good thing and a bad thing. Like, I don't think it's terrible by any means. But I think at times you get lost by how much it sounds like Joy Division. I think moments, like situations change and act your age just are just too Joy. They just sound like Ian Curtis was revived from the dead. Like they got to his tomb.
They got him.
They dug him up, and then they resurrected him from the dead. It just sounds like that's the big. It just sounds like Joy Division, other like post-punk bands of that era, or other noise rock bands of that era, or even modern era. I think it just takes too much from other influences and doesn't really make a voice of its own. But at the same time, comparing it to Preoccupations, was an album I reviewed recently, which is a post-punk album that we thought wasn't really, it was annoying, but it also took a lot from influences, other post-punk acts. But I think this is actually listenable, whereas that wasn't. I think there's moments on here that I like Too Tough to Kill, I like Never Going Back, I like I Know I'm Done Bad Things, and Look Me in the Eyes. Those are moments I actually like pretty enjoy well. Keep On Moving is also another moment I enjoy. But I don't think they're, like, I think they're good, but like I think it's good. Let me rephrase this. I'm sorry, like messing the fuck up here. But it's good, but they have things that stand out. But I still get shades of Joy Division occasionally at times, and there's other tracks where I just get shades of Joy Division. But there's nothing too terrible on here. The biggest complaint I can say is it just sounds like Joy Division. Things that I like, execution. Too Tough to Kill. It has a very unique sound with heavy drums and a creative performance. Look Me in the Eyes has a very punchy bass, guitars, and drums. It has Joy Division vocals, but everything like blends well together. I know I'm dumb.
Division vocals.
Yeah, just Ian Curtis inspired vocals.
That's funny.
I've known I've Done Bad Things has just a huge space and reverb atmosphere that I really enjoyed, and this very persistent rhythm of this drum that I think is amazing. The vocals throw me off a bit, but I kind of welcome that because it just seems weird in this reverb, like atmospheric space. Attitude it's basically just Never Coming Back Part 2. It's just fun, punchy noise rock that I really enjoyed, and I wish the album was filled with more tracks like that. Keep Moving On. I think it's a decent closer. It has electronic drum and a very persistent rhythm, whatever I just mentioned. I've Known and Done Bad Things. And other than those tracks, there's only One of Us. That's probably my least favorite because it literally sounds like Oliver Ackerman and Simone Baswell. Both of them. So not just Oliver Ackerman, but both of them managed to sound like Ian Curtis. I don't know how they managed to find a female Ian Curtis, but they did. But it just sounds too much like Joy Division. and I couldn't get that out of my head. Situations change and act your age again. The acts of how they fade in and the vocal distortion at brief moments, those are just quintessential things I think when I think of Joy Division or when I think post-punk from that era. It just sounds too much like it, and I can't avoid that. There's things I like about this album, but in the end, I don't have much to say other than it just kind of rips off or takes too much from this post-punk style, and it doesn't really make its own. Moments like I've Known Him Done Bad Things and Attitude and Never Going Back, I think, make it stand out. They're not reinventing the wheel, but they're fun and they're there and they seem almost like their own in a sense. But the rest of the album just kind of, it just is Joy Division and other post-punk artists of the era. And I don't have much to say other than that.
This album was not my favorite. I can appreciate good music, and I like to think I can at least. And I think that there were like good things about the album. Yeah. And I'll also say like I think there are good things about Joy Division, but it's just not for me. I could not get with this. I couldn't enjoy it because I didn't like the style it was made in, if that makes sense. Yeah. But I seriously think, like, as far as good things go, I think that Ackerman and Braswell both have, like, amazing chemistry together. Yeah. I think that their duets and their harmonies are just so full of that chemistry that they obviously carry, and it makes me wonder, like, what it would be like seeing them live and seeing that chemistry for yourself. I like some of the clashes of everything, just kind of like the noisy version of it, because I don't think it's too noisy. It's more of a unique kind of, that's what noise rock was like based off of, not clanging around things and throwing oil drums at
comparing it to what was the record review a couple of weeks ago, Cross, whatever it was. That just, I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear any of the vocals, and it was too noisy.
Cross was too much.
Yeah, this is like the right amount. And I think like Preoccupations was too boring. Preoccupations was just too annoying.
And it was like annoying, and it was boring. But this kind of meets it in the middle a little bit. But I still wouldn't consider like noise rock to be my favorite genre, and I can't consider like Ian Curtis and Joy Division to be my favorite singer or band, or I don't really like anything about them. Yeah. But I can understand like why this would be enjoyable to people that like that kind of style, especially if you're like a huge Joy Division fan. I can understand like why you would like something that sounds similar to it. If you're a noise rock fan, though, I think that I think there's a lot here for you. I think that this is kind of like a dream come true for you. Yeah, but for me personally, I can't get past the fact that it sounds too much like Joy Division. That's kind of what kills it for me on some of these tracks. I did have fun with like half of this album though, and there's tracks I'm definitely going back to, but I just don't think it leaves that big of an impression on itself, or what it wants to be. It just sounds like a bunch of other artists. At the end of the day, it really isn't that imaginative in a sense, and it isn't, I would say, almost consistent with what it's trying to be or the sound is trying to be. I wish that, and it also operates too much on one layer, I would say as well. I think it needed more breaks and more different sounds and more different vocal harmonies and vocal lyrics and different stuff like that. But in the end, I'm gonna give it 5.5. I liked it. I just wish there was like more of a presence of them or what they're like instead of Joy Division or other post-punk acts of the era. Yeah, that makes sense. I think I'm gonna have to give it just a straight 5. I feel like really conflicted because like I didn't like it, but it wasn't because I thought that the whole album was like overly horrible. I just don't particularly like the style. Rice Gum is a popular YouTuber. He makes a lot of okay, kind of funny videos. He started making music recently, and I haven't listened to it. But this is not him. This is Gum, psychedelic rock band. new album, The Underdog, consists of
Jay Watson.
Jay Watson,
who's a member of Pon and Tame Impala.
And this is his solo project, kind of breaking off from those two. Luckily, he's not done with those though.
Yeah. And I was actually really surprised by this record. I thought it was a lot of fun. I like at its core. I think this album has a lot of great production, a lot of great performances. I think lyrically it's fine. I just don't think that there's just not much depth to it, and that's the biggest problem. But I had a lot of fun with this. I think it has great production. Love the synths. Love the basses he uses throughout. Mm-hmm. Very psychedelic, very bright, very fun. Fantastic. Like, out of all the albums we're going to talk about this year, I think this is like one of the better ones to have on as background music. I think it's just very fun, very cheerful, very psychedelic, very mood-setting background music. And it makes me think of acts such as Pon and Tame Impala, no duh, because he's been part of that. But it also makes me think of like artists such as like Mac DeMarco and Gorillaz and Pink Floyd, which is cool.
When Vincent asked me to describe the album to him before listening to it, I said it was like if Damon Albarn took over Pink Floyd forever. And that's like just seriously what it reminds me of. A lot of like Wish You Were Here kind of vibes.
So what does this album really consist of? It consists of like 38 minutes of just very psychedelic, very fun rock music. It doesn't have that much lyrical content or lyrical thread to it, but it has a lot of production thread and vocal performance thread, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. A lot of the tracks, they sound the same, but they're not too much the same. They all take place in the same universe, but they're not the same track over and over again. They all seem consistent with each other, and they also follow a lot of the same things, a lot of the same build up. Start off, I think the introduction is a bit too long. That's one of my biggest gripes. I think it just goes on too long, doesn't really go anywhere, and I wish it would build up into an actual track. But following up The Underdog reminds me a lot of like Portugal Man with the high pitched vocals on that.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think that's another artist I think you can compare them to. But I think it's a lot of fun. Still a good track. I think he actually does Portugal Man better than Portugal Man, to be honest. At least on this one track. On the track Say It Again, very catchy and hypnotic. This is what I'm looking for in my psychedelic rock. Just something repetitive, very hypnotic, very trance-inducing, very catchy. I'll say it again, but you won't understand. I'll say it again, but you won't understand. I'll say it again, but you won't. It's very just catchy, and it's been stuck. Like at first, I didn't like it, but as more I listen to the track, the more it just like it gets engraved into my head, and it will never escape. The track Serotonin. The synths are amazing, and this is when I realized like the production of this album was like fantastic. The first listen, and the hook is very heartful and sentimental. This is where I think it reminds me of Damon Albarn. Also, some of the the vocal performance also kind of sounds like Mac DeMarco, but like I think the drum in the background, the electronic drum he uses reminds me of My Old Man, like the drum that Mac DeMarco used on that track. So that's why I'm making that comparison. And after all, the progression and build-up is fantastic. Like, I think this album just has a lot of good progression, has a lot of good build-up. I think overall, this album is just a lot of fun. I think moments throughout the entire project build on top of each other. They all follow a bit too much of the same structure, and they may not have too much to them, but I think in the end, it's just... there's not that much depth to it, but I don't think there needed to be. I think this is a very consistent and very, very well established, very well understood project of what it's going for. It's not going to reinvent the wheel, but it's trying to just make a fun album that may sound like a bunch of different artists, but it meshes all these things together and makes a very stylistically notable sound that's not, again, it's not reinventing the wheel, it's not doing something completely out there, but it's just very consistent, very fun, has peaks, ups and downs, moments throughout it. I think production, again, is fantastic. I love the synths on this album, love the basses, and I don't think I can mention much more about this. I think it's just a very well established, very consistently made project. I want to give it a 7.5 out of 10. I don't think I really have anything else to say. I think it was just a very fun listen, and it's a great background listen. I would recommend you to that, but like I don't think there's much depth for you to actually give it a lot of you don't really need to pay attention to this.
That makes sense. I didn't particularly like care for this album a ton when I first heard it, and it wasn't because it was bad. It was because it didn't have a lot going on for it. You know, it was good background music. And so I felt like I didn't have to like pay attention to it. But since then, it has really like grown on me. Tracks like you mentioned, The Underdog, Serotonin, After All from the Sun, Couldn't See Past My Ego. And I like these tracks a lot. And I think that they, like you said, like are really good. Just little like pieces of background music.
Yeah.
It's not psychedelic rock in the way that like. I think like Pink Floyd is psychedelic rock,
or like Tame Impala is psychedelic rock.
Yeah, I'm trying to say like I guess I didn't really finish. It's sometimes I feel like psychedelic rock has like a negative connotation, and like it talks about like negative things or just kind of like shoegazing. You know, like you don't have to like presently be there, and you might not have to like presently be here for this, but at least it's like upbeat and cheerful. Tame Impala I also find to be like mostly like upbeat, not always cheerful. But like this, I was in a good mood listening to it, you know? And may I say, this is a great length for an album. Yeah. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't it doesn't like take too long to get where it's going. There are a lot of like really cool build-ups and then fallbacks, I guess. Only to build back up again. It's not like it's building up the entire album towards one thing at the end, because I don't think that that's always as satisfying. You need like a lot of little build-ups and then fallbacks after you reach like your main event, you know, or main events. And I think this album like did that really well. Each song has some sort of build-up, or each like set of songs has some sort of thing that it's building up towards.
Or progression.
One of my least favorite tracks on here are the Blue Marble. I think that one goes on too long, and I think it's just kind of stupid. Yeah, but, like everything else, I think is a pretty enjoyable track, and I honestly like don't mind listening to it. And it's just nice to have. It's almost like a bubblegummy kind of background music for you. I'm gonna give it a 7. It's impossible to not like it. Yeah, it's impossible to not like feel at least kind of happy or kind of upbeat when you're listening to it. The album cover is so colorful. Gum just seems I don't know, it's, like it's a fun game or a fun name, and then of course we all know like Jay Watson is a good producer and a good musician. I can't dislike him or the things that he's trying to do here, so I would definitely recommend it. Chicago rapper Saba's new project, Care For Me, just came out. I was actually introduced to Saba when we first got Spotify Premium, and I realized that they were making a daily mix for me because of not a daily mix, a weekly shuffle kind of thing, where it's like music that you listen to, and these are artists that you might enjoy. And the very first like weekly mix I got, I was on my way to my girlfriend's house. I had like an hour trip and just put it on. This was the very first song that came on, Stony from the Bucket List Project. Yeah. And that like just had me hooked. You know, I was like, I can't believe the first song I'd listened to on here that was recommended would be like a good one. Spotify really knows their stuff. I sent it to Vincent, and
I like it. Yeah, but like
that's what like hooked me into Saba.
That comes from his last project, the Bucket List Project, which I've heard some Saba before. I'm familiar before that with his work with Chance the Rapper, No Name, Vic, like any Chicago rapper that was a part of the same
BJ the Chicago Kid,
like any previous rapper that was a part of that scene or productionist. Like what's his name? Nico Segal now, not Donnie Trumpet anymore, whatever. But a lot of the artists that are coming from that Chicago scene, that all know each other. I was familiar from his work with
rapper's cousin.
Yeah. But I was like on the Bucket List Project, I felt like Stony was like the highlight of it, and there wasn't really much more after that. I didn't feel like there was really much like there. Yeah. I thought he had good flow, but I didn't think he had really unique personality, and I didn't think the production that was backing him besides Stony really fit all as well, and it didn't really interest me. Now in this new project, Care For Me, I think the production fits him a bit. It fits him more, and I think he has better flows, better verses, and he's trying to do something bigger, but I think there's just not a lot there. There's still not a lot of depth. He's not really doing something that separates him from the pack still. I think he's still kind of like, I'm gonna compare him to Bishop Nehru in a sense. On Bishop Nehru's last project, Elevators Act 1 and 2, I felt like the production behind him was good. I felt like his flows and his rhymes were good, but I felt like his unique personality wasn't all that much, and he wasn't saying anything all that interesting or all that unique. I will have to say the same for Saba, but Saba, the production's good, but I just don't care for it as much as Bishop Nehru's. Not that we have to compare these two albums by any means, but I think the production's fine, but like it kind of seems like it hits the same note over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Kind of this like jazzy style rap. I do like moments like Life and Logout. I love the bass on the track Life. I think it's utterly fantastic. I like the features on here. I like the features from Chance the Rapper. I think that fits really well into Saba's, but it's not one of Chance's best verses. I feel like he's almost kind of phoning in a bit. It's not the Chance that we come to expect. It doesn't seem as energetic, but it's also
like he's doing a favor.
It also is over like a more slower beat, and we really don't see Chance over that all too much. He didn't see really. His verses were good, but they didn't seem as enthusiastic. I'm gonna leave it there. I won't talk about Chance, but I think overall this is a bit too long for what it is, and 10 minutes could have been trimmed. It seems like it kind of hits the same nail on the head over again, whether it's motion wise or production wise. I think a lot of the jazzy instrumentation kind of gets bored quick, and it sounds like something I've heard on No Name's project too. I think the production's a little bit too close there at moments. Saba's kind of getting lost in this Chicago scene for me on this. I think there's just too many artists that are kind of similar, or too many artists that have good flows, but they're just not unique personalities. And I think that's kind of what sells at this point. You need to have good flows and a unique personality. And Saba's just a very decent lyricist, and he really doesn't have anything unique to say. I think he has more to say on this project. It's more personal, is more introspective, but I don't think in the end there's all that much there. Moments that stand out, Logout and Life, those are my two favorite moments on this entire project. And Broken Girls. I like Broken Girls as well.
That one's pretty good. For me, I think that Saba kind of can get a little edgy on this project. For example, I remember I was listening to Broken Girls and I was like, dang, this is like some Twitter stuff. Why do I always fall for broken girls? Like, you know, that's, I feel like that's kind of like shallow stuff.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, I was like, you know, this is probably like what he's feeling right now. You know, this is probably just stuff that he is experiencing and feeling, and I came to appreciate that almost immediately. I don't know, probably 50% more after just thinking about that a little more. Moments that stand out for me, including like Life and Logout. I also enjoyed Calligraphy, Fighter, and my personal favorite track on here, Prom King. I just thought that was like a really interesting narrative. It reminded me a lot of Rich Brian's track, Kitty from Amen. It's a long 7-minute 30-second track about how he like didn't have a prom date and all he wanted to do was have sex with her, and he like met her brother at a party and he like put a knife to his throat and said like, I swear if you touch her, like you're dead. It's just really, but for me, I wanted to know what happened next, you know.
But for me it felt like too long. Like 7 minutes was too long. One thing, if we're comparing to the Rich Brian song, that Rich Brian song was only like 4 minutes.
I just wanted to know like what happened next in the story. It had me hooked, and then I also liked Heaven All Around Me after that. I think that it touched like a lot of inner city life, especially like living in Chicago. It's a dangerous place out there. I just found that to be more introspective, I guess. More introspective than I come to expect from Saba, especially like listening to Bucket List Project.
Yeah.
I think that he went more into a lot of like heavier issues, like I guess just the urban environment that he lived in, you know, things that like Chance and BJ the Chicago Kid are talking about, but he's putting in his 2 cents as well. I just think it's interesting. It's always interesting coming from a different perspective, and I think those last 2 tracks are my favorite on the album, personally.
So for me personally, I think Saba provides a decent-ish record, but it just doesn't have really a unique personality. Production's too much same. Emotionally, it feels too much the same. I overall, it kind of feels like we're getting too much the same. But there's nothing like terrible about it. I think it is a huge improvement over Bucket List Project, and I think he's going to improve from here without a doubt. I think as time goes on, he's definitely going to improve. He's young, like he's got time. Like we're all going to improve. We're all going to improve as humans, but I think he is going to improve. This is a huge step up from Bucket List Project, but I just don't think it's enough step up for me to actually fully enjoy it. Overall, I'm going to give it 6.5 out of 10. But there's elements of this I think I do enjoy over his last project.
I think I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 just because of like there's a huge increase of good tracks, and I think there's just like more effort overall put into Care For Me. So I can't wait to see like what he does next. I like that kind of Chicago group that he's running around with now, and collaborating with, and I would love to see them all work together even more. If you would if they included Saba into their more like regular lineup, I think that could be like a huge force to be reckoned with, like a collective without being a collective.
Okay, so I think that wraps it up for this week's episode of the Anthony Todd Show. So, Trevor, what's next week?
All right.
What's next week? Do you know what's next week?
Yeah, next week we've got a couple projects for you. We got Del the Funky Homo Sapien and Amp Live's new collab album, Gate 13. Really excited for that one. Del has been a favorite of mine since I was a kid. We got Denmark Vesey's new album, Sun Go Nova, longtime Quelle Chris collaborator. I'm excited to see his solo work. We got Jack Stauber's new album, High Low. This is kind of a lo-fi pop musician that I recently discovered and really have been enjoying his past project, Pop Food. I'm pumped to see what he comes up with on High Low here. And then we're going to delve into the new J. Cole record. KODU stands for Call of Duty, as in Black Ops 4 will not have a single-player campaign.
And it's all about his reaction to that.
Yeah.
He wrote it really quickly.
Not like I play Call of Duty anyway.
Actually, I would be interested to see a 4-hour-long album about J. Cole talking about Call of Duty. So are we going to do that? Do you want to review that? We can. It's already out, so I don't care. I'll review it. I don't have anything going on this week. We're gonna do some jazz, Trevor. We're gonna do some jazz.
Do some jazz.
Last minute jazz pickup.
I heard that Sons of Kemet's new album, Your Queen is a Reptile, was really good.
We've heard it from your boy Fantano. So
yeah, he said it was good. I also have a couple of friends at school that are into jazz, so.
Yeah, we don't listen to enough jazz.
No, they've told me that this album is actually good, so we're gonna check it out.
What's the last jazz album we reviewed? Have we reviewed a jazz album?
H. John Benjamin's.
That's not. We're like. I don't think we reviewed the jazz album.
No, I don't think we ever have.
It's always like hybrids. It's like either hip hop and jazz. It's never just jazz.
Well, I'm excited to review it. I like jazz personally.
Yeah.
We're also gonna continue the Kanye quest with Watch the Throne. His collab album with Jay-Z.
Oh, shit.
Throw it.
You're not my father.
That's the only time we will ever throw My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy in
You're my
in
father.
the place of Watch the Throne. Is that Watch the Throne?
No. I don't want to have to dig it out. I think it's down here somewhere. Are you my father? No, you're not my father. You're my father. I lied. You're my imposter dad. That's my real dad.
I found him.
That was the dumbest bit we've ever done.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.
Until next time, guys, make sure you like our Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Please do that. Subscribe to us on YouTube, Podbean, Stitcher, Google Play Music, iTunes, and Spotify. And if you like our theme song, it's produced by Vincent. We got some new theme songs. Our intro song is called Galaxia. I named that one. And our outro song is called Rock Salt Lamp. I also named that one. And the links to the songs are in the description. We got SoundCloud. This has been episode 35 of the Anthony Todd Show, an episode we like to call Pookie Baby One More Time.
Till next time. See you,
We'll
boyos.
see you guys.